Hey Joe, ask Joe about money. It is February 27th, 2:44 market time, and we're going to walk through this trade together here. Let's see what happened here. So the market went up, and at the open, it rejected those highs. Big red bar. This bar right here changed the whole characteristic of the day. Then we had a second leg down, and now we came up here right around 50%, and I ended up getting short. When I saw that they started failing up here resistance as this bar was forming, I ended up getting short. So my initial stop is above that high up there. So let's measure out our risk. So our risk is about that much. And so now we're going to look for a spot to manage. I've drawn in my lines here. So there were buyers below this low, but bear bar, small green bar, doji, bear, bear. We're in a range-bound market, so I'm very cognizant of the fact that this may end up being as low as it gets. We tried here on this attempt, and then we reversed up. So the same thing could happen here. Here we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bear bars, and then that happened. So this is trading range behavior. So what that means is that until we see a big bear bar closing at its lows, we can't assume that we're going to be in a trend because have been in this trading range the entire day. So as we see here, this was the upper end of the trading range, and that's the lower end. So right now, I know we're selling, but let's not forget, okay? Let's not forget that this is where support has been. This is some big support areas coming here for the day. The low of the day is here. They're selling it aggressively right now, but remember, we are in this trading range. So far, so this is the trading range so far, we have, let's measure out our maximum favorable excursion. In other words, how much are we up in the trade so far? That will be our maximal favorable excursion so far. They're selling into the lows here, but again, they tried that here. It failed. They tried that here. They reversed up. The only thing I could say is that the bear bars seem to be getting bigger. Let's see how this one. We still have about 3 minutes for this bar to close. So right now we're sitting in this short, and let's see what happens. One thing I would say here is that whenever I'm short, I'm always thinking about. I'm not thinking about it going up or I should say, of it going down because that will take care of itself. What I'm worried about is on the upside. If this reverses, how much do I want to give back of my profits here? I have to remember we are in a range-bound market. Okay, we are in a range. Although they tried a higher low here and that failed up top, so that's an argument for the downside. But again, the bottom line is this: we are at the buy zone of this trading range, right? If we were to draw in the buy zone based on this trading range, the buy zone is roughly 1/3 of the lower end of the trading range. That's roughly the buy zone. Oops, what just happened there? Let's see here. So the buy zone is going to be roughly the bottom third of the trading range. And the sell zone, and again, as you guys know, this is not perfect, right? The market's not perfect, so we don't treat it that way. So this is roughly the sell zone. How do I know it? That's not my interpretation. That's what has happened. So this is the middle. You don't want to be buying or selling in the middle of a trading range. So what's tricky about these types of trades is that if you give it some room to the upside, now you end up covering towards the middle of the trading range. I got to really watch price action carefully here because looking back after this trade, if this trade goes back up, it's going to be very obvious that I should have covered down here. But if you look, we have more aggressive bear bars. But again, that happened here and the market reversed up. And when we see big, strong bull bars, the market reversed down. These are the hallmarks of a trading range. So the issue with waiting for the way I get out of a short is I wait for a green bar, and then I put my stop above that green bar. The issue is that, I guess here would have worked fine. I'm just looking at what's been happening because these wicks alone, is that a reason for me to cover here? I don't know. We're in the buy zone. That bar just closed. Big wick on the bottom. Now it's a question of how do they react to it here. They closed below this low. There are buyers here. We are in the buy zone. We can't be surprised if the market reverses up from here. It's just what's tough with the covers is that in a situation here where you're at support, if a big red candle does come, it will be quick, and you're not going to be able to get it. You want to be quick on the trigger. They seem to be finding buyers here. Let's take a look at the 1 minute chart, see what it looks like there. Again, we are in the buy zone, so this is where it reversed this morning, and we're getting into 250. So we still have time for a reversal for a trend. There's still time for this market to break the lows and go lower. There's definitely time for that. It's a little bit late. Usually, if they're going to do it, they're going to start a little bit earlier, but it's 250, and we have to really see how this reacts here at these lows because we're at support, right? Now, support's not support forever, so I'm already in the trade, so I would hate to get out and then not be able to get back in, so I want to stick with it. And we just have to, this is a tough one. This is a tough one because based on the character of the day, this would be a good cover. I could scale out. That's an option because right now I have to have my stop way up here. And again, that's the catastrophe stop. We're going to look to get out way before that. Certainly what I could say is this, is that if we print any type of green candle, I will just put my stop right above it. Because what happens is, and then possibly look to get short. I can possibly miss the short, but see, so now they're buying. So what I'm going to do is this, if they put in a green bar here, I am going to allow the bar to close. I don't want to be too quick on the trigger, but if they put a green bar here, I'm going to place my stop right above the green bar. And the reason why I say that is because if I look at the character of the day, they put a green bar here and then never made it lower than that green bar. They put a green bar here. You know, I'm talking about like when we see the moves down. Now this green bar, they sold it. They went a little bit. They went a couple ticks above it, and they sold it. Like I said, this is a tough spot. It's a tough spot because we're at support. It's always tough because I'm looking for. I like to say I'm a very long-term day trader. I'm looking for swings, for larger swings. And as time goes by, the likelihood of having a swing down is going to be less likely. But it's just when you're trading as a swing trader, as I do, you can't let every little wiggle and waggle get you out because by the nature of how I trade, I don't take many trades in a day. I'm in from a good price, right? We have our risk measured out. We have our catastrophe stop in there. We're okay. But now the issue is that how well can we trade this area? Because this area, there's going to be buyers here, as we can see. What I would say is this, if I see a green bar, we have 30 seconds here. I'm getting tempted to cover here. I would like to see how they react when this bar closes, if it closes green, because that's going to be important. We have 10 seconds, but so far they're selling the high of that bar, the high of the prior bar so far. And they close it green and they sold immediately. So they closed it green. It actually gapped up by a tick. And then they sold it immediately. I don't know. We'll see. Our stop needs to stay up there for now. I don't know how much more room I want to give this, but I see this. I'm looking here. The last reversal up, which was this, was a big green bar. When this happened on this leg down, they sold it. So that's leg one, pull back leg two. So I'm going to give it a little bit of room. Let's see what happens on this candle here. 2:55 market time. But to me, this is looking a lot different than the other times. So I know we're at support, but that reversal was very minor. They didn't even get above that. Now, obviously, still a lot of support we have to get through here. Still, if you look with this big bear, small bear bar, they sold it. It stayed there for 3 or 4 bars. Here, they sold it after 1 bar. But again, like I said, a lot of support here. And oftentimes, if they're gonna break it, it's gonna be one big red bar that's gonna break it because there's all this energy here, all this buying. Once the buyers, if the buyers do give up, then it'll go down and there's stops below here and it could potentially cascade down. But we have to do one step at a time. And right now, still buyers here. We're in this tight bear channel right now. But again, this could easily be a bear channel in a trading range, right? So bear channel in a trading range. So what if this happens again? and then it goes up. This could easily, it's actually, at this point, has made a higher low. So that's advantage to the bulls. It's made a higher low. Try pushing down again, it failed. But now we have resistance up here. So this is, how I trade. I don't trade inside of this. And there's really no such thing as noise. I don't call this noise because it means something. If you're trading like on a 1 minute chart, this absolutely, what's happening in here is not noise at all. You could, if you're a 1 minute chart trader, you could trade inside here. There's resistance, here's support. But for my time frame, so now they're putting in, now buyers are stepping in. So from down here at 89 quarter all the way, they bought it up to 92.75. The difficulty with these types of trades is that, if they put in a big green bar, that's going to be a tough spot. But right now, it went back up to resistance and they sold it. It didn't even make it all the way up to resistance. It's on the very short term, right? But again, we're dealing with support. We're dealing with major support. Last time it was down here earlier today, it made its move up. So we're definitely at a critical state, because the buyers are here, low of the day is here, and at this point, the bears may be curious to see if there are sellers on the other side of this. But if there are more buyers, that's not going to happen. So we're going to manage this bar by bar. We have about 1:45 left in this bar. All right, so we have another bear bar, but buying below and selling on top. So indecision. Again, I'm really watching this closely, because this is a tough area, because this is a battle zone, right? This is a battle zone. You could see the battle here, because they buy, the buyers step in, and then the seller. So this is a battle zone. So let's see if we get because now we have to pay attention to here. This is what we have to take a look at, is that now we're going to be poking, looks like we just poked the low of the day. Did we actually poke the low of the day? Nope. We stopped right at the low of the day. So now, at this point, you have to figure it's going to go at least one tick below the low of the day, because we're going to see, they want to see if there are sellers there. Now, what will get me out automatically is that if I see a rejection down here and I see a candle like this, right? If I see a candle like this, I'm pointing with my finger here. If I see a candle like where they go down and they buy, I'll exit right above that candle, because that will tell me immediately that they tried to see if sellers were there and there were no sellers and buyers stepped in. If I see a red candle closing at its lows, then that'll make me a little bit more comfortable. But at this point, we're still in this battle zone here. So buyers bought right at the low, looks like, right at the low, 86.75, 86.50. 86.50 buyers stepped back in. But still, tight bear channel. Okay, tight bear channel. This could give us a big green bar, and that's why I'm watching it really closely, is because eventually, if the sellers don't make it, this thing's going to turn around and go back up. But right now, I'm reading price action, and this bar opened right at the low of the body of the prior bar, and it didn't go above it yet. We have 3 minutes left. Still at support, and just trying to read this the best that I can. No enthusiasm either way, but this is what it looks like at support, because this is where buyers are stepping in and sellers are trying to break the low to see if there are sellers. They want the next leg down. But so far, it's pretty neutral. I think the sellers have a little bit of a tilt, because you could see that we're trending down, and every time we go back up, it gets sold. So now we made a new low. Right now we made a new low. So now what happens here at the new low? We just made a new low. We have 2 minutes left in this current bar. What are some potential targets anyway, just in case this does start to break out? Okay, so we're looking at, this is the high of Friday. So that's an obvious target. And then the close of Friday. So we have some targets down here. Measured move, that would be a big move. But if we look at from here to here, so the measured move would be down here. But again, still at support. So that's not a convincing so far attempt at through the lows, right? You would think that, but this is how it is at the lows, because they're still jockeying to see if there are real sellers. Again, we can't be so perfect to say we broke it by a tick, so we're good. No, it looks like they're still picking. So we have the high of Friday would be the next target. So we have the high of Friday. And then the next target after that would be the close. To completely close the gap. So we might be close enough that they want to close the gap. It's 309. It's 309. Now, I got to say that if we close a big red bar right at support, this is a good sign for the bears, but tight bear channel, this could reverse at any point. So let's be cognizant of that. Let's get this out of the way here so we can see it a little bit better. So they closed it and they started selling immediately there. But now we have 1, 2, 3 bear bars. Is this some type of exhaustion? Because we're still at support. We could bounce at the high of Friday. But again, I'm not going to predict. And so now at this point, okay, because we're doing this, I'm going to give it some room. I'm going to look at this. Absolutely, if they put a big green bar in, I'll be out at the top of that bar. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and move my stop down to definitely at the top of that. But I might be able to put it to the top of this. My maximal favorable excursion at this point is that. We're going to micromanage this as we come in. Now, we still have plenty of time, and we still have 15 minutes until the close. Buyers there. So buyers there so far. So now they're buying it. They're buying it. But let's see what happens to the buying. There's resistance up here. Moving average is far behind at this point. So I'm trying to decide right now, if they close this as a bull bar, am I willing to move my stop down or give it some room? So I like to keep track of how much I gave back, right? Because this is the math. This was our risk, right? This was our maximum. So this was our risk here. Our maximum favorable excursion was this box, and now we're here. And so they're selling it. So it's managing shorts is tough, especially when it's not a trend day and you're coming into support, because this could reverse very quickly. So how do I manage this? One way to manage it is I could reduce risk. Like I could take off a quarter, I could take off half, right? I could do that. So that's an option. We have a minute to the close of this bar. So an option is I could take off some. So that's an option I could do. Another option is I could put a stop above this bar. Yeah. No enthusiasm at the lows, right? So buyers at the lows. Sometimes it takes a couple of probes though. Sometimes they don't get the big flush immediately. 39.89 is the high of this bar. We're in a range-bound day, range-bound afternoon. So I'm watching how, as a reaction, they put in a green bar, but in the face of this trend, do I want to cover just because they put in a green bar? This is a really tight bear channel. See, if I would have put my stop right above there, they would have hit it. This is always the trying to figure out what is the exact right room. How much room should I give it? Because if I was too tight and I put it above there, I would be out already. So this is just start, and now it looks like they're selling. Now it looks like they're selling. So let's see if this is going to be the push now. They're attacking new lows and they're attacking the high. So again, it's always about how does it react here? So here's the high of Friday, and then now they're attacking it pretty heavily. Just 2 minutes into the bar, they're selling it. That was a lesson. Keeping it tight. Again, one tick above. Whoever kept the one tick above there, they got stopped out. So you have to see how we're reacting. You've got to give it a little bit of room, because if not, you're going to be buying at the top tick and selling at the low tick. So we're still in because we're reading price action. Now, is this getting a little bit long in the tooth? Sure. But we do have to close the gap here, 39.75. We also have measure move lower, one step at a time. But so far, the way the last last hour of trading has been going, that this bear bar in this trading range has been stronger. Every time it reversed up, they sold it. Every time it reversed up, they sold it. Now let's see what happens here. So another bear bar here. So they're not decisively closing below the support point, but they keep probing it. Not much sustained buying at all, but my job here as a cover as my short is going to be to look out for those buyers, because now we've run down the high of this 406. What's that? 16, 22 points on a day like today. Just, can this become something more? We're sitting right at the lows. We don't see buyers yet, but we could also look. Every time that we have lows like this, we have a wedge that's constantly forming. So we look at a wedge. Oops. So very tight, very tight. What happens if this turns into a bull bar? That's a good question. there's just no enthusiasm as of yet. Just no enthusiasm. Let's look at a 1 minute chart. I mean, we're at support. I know we broke it, but we're at support. We're at support. This would not be a bad place to cover. This would not be a bad place to. I really don't like tightening my stop, because then you're not giving it the trade, the room that it needs based on my time frame. So I would rather, for example, if I were to put in a tight stop here, I would be out of the trade. I would rather just say, because my stop needs to be so far away, I would rather just take some risk off the table. But making your stop tighter, just for me, I never like that. Again, everyone has different ways of trading, but see, it's just pushing lower and there are buyers below. Pushing lower, buyers below. Pushing lower, buyers below. No, unless we see a decent sized bear bar closing at its lows, we're still going to be in this. I'm getting close to this, to maybe considering taking some of my risk off, maybe a third. Still selling. All right, so I closed out my trade right here. I just closed it out right here, because I saw basically all this buying down here. They were making a new low, so I just closed it out. It's okay. And they sold it again.